Hey everybody, so it is currently 4:30 in the morning. I am just getting off of a 2-week vacation from work and my schedule is all messed up. I can't sleep. I need to be up in an hour and a half anyway to start getting ready for work. So I decided I wanted to do some filming, and recently I picked up the full new Young Nails gel polish line. They recently reformulated their entire line. I believe that this is going to take place of their previous line. I don't think that they are using this as like an additional like sub gel category in their brand. So I wanted to do a swatch party video today to show you guys all of the colors. There's a total of 54 colors, I believe. I have them all in this little box right now because this is where I store them. It's just an old PLA box that I just keep them in just so that they're all together. So on top I have most of the like colored, like bright colors and blues, purples, things like that. And then I have most of the neutrals down below. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to swatch all of these. They aren't numbered, so I'm not going to go in any like particular order, but I am going to do them in like groups of 5. So if you're interested in seeing the new Young Nails gel polish line fully swatched out, just keep on watching. So we're going to see if I can get through this whole collection before I have to start getting ready for work, but I did start off by picking out the first colors I'm going to swatch. Before I go ahead and swatch them, I do just want to talk a little bit about the bottles and just kind of the new branding and design that they have for these. One thing I do want to mention is that the polish bottle is not like a standard shape or size. It is a lot shorter and a lot wider at the base. I don't know if this would be something that would fit in like most traditional polish holders that you can buy, so that's something you may have to test out for yourself. They may have on the website, I didn't go and check, but they may have like the specific dimensions of it so that you can know ahead of time if it's going to fit in your specific storage units. But for me, I kind of make do with what I got, so I didn't really look into that ahead of time. Now for their new line, they did kind of rebrand their logo, so you'll see kind of the new like funky cursive writing on it. They did increase the amount that you get for the polishes. Previously they had a 10 ml bottle, now they have a 15 ml or about 0.5 fluid ounces, so a little bit more product, which I think is good. You have on these bottles an embossed YN logo in their new font on the top, and of course you can see that the color of the bottle matches the product inside, which you will see as I go through and swatch it. This is a new thing that a lot of brands are coming out with, and I actually really appreciate it. I am somebody who, over the course of probably the past 5 or so years since I've started nails, I just really kind of reorganize and revamp my collection as I start incorporating new products in. So I am always looking for new storage and trying to find ways to make everything fit and look nice and be really accessible for me. So for me, I'm kind of constantly changing things. So it's not always like being stored in the same ways. Like the products that I have may be stored in drawers one time and then on shelves another. Now, certain brands have incorporated like pre-done swatches on their bottles. So the brands that I'm thinking of in particular are like V Beauty Pure and Not Polished. They have like these little clear swatch dots on the top that they put the color inside, and it's kind of pre-done. The bottle comes that way and you're able to see what the color inside looks like, because obviously with gel bottles they need to make them opaque so that they don't cure in the bottle while you're just having it like sitting on your shelf or in your storage. So what that does though is make it hard for people to see what the color actually is without opening the bottles. So a lot of brands had incorporated that little swatch dot. Now I feel like if you store your gel polishes in drawers where you're kind of looking at them from a bird's eye view, having the swatch dot on the top is really helpful. But if you store them on like shelving units, it's not really helpful because you're not looking at them from the top most of the time. Most of the time when they're on a shelf, you're looking at them kind of head on, and not a lot of brands have any type of swatch that's on the front. So some people would kind of create their own and just kind of stick it on the bottles, which is okay, but that's a lot of extra work, especially especially if you have like a range of gel polishes that you're looking to store or display on your stands. So I like that the bottles are now matching the color inside, because I feel like no matter how you store your products, or if it changes over time, like maybe you store them on shelves but then you change your mind and you kind of switch it up and move them into drawers or vice versa, you won't have to worry about like where your swatches are and whether or not you're going to be able to still see them in the way that you're storing your collection currently. So I actually really love that, and I'm appreciating that a lot of brands are kind of opting in for this style of packaging, because I think it's really helpful and universal for most texts. So I really enjoy that. The only thing I will say that I didn't love about this bottle in comparison to their previous one is because the bottle is much shorter, the actual like brush on the like handle is much shorter, and I feel like when I had like my long nails on, it wasn't the most like easy to use. It felt a little like awkward to hold. Not so bad that I don't feel like it's usable, but I do feel like just having it be a little shorter than I'm used to made it a little like counterintuitive for when I was applying it. So that's the only gripe I really have with the new packaging. Otherwise, I actually really like the new packaging. I think it's really sleek. I do think that it looks very elevated. I like the way that it looks. You obviously still have your label on the bottom to tell you what color it is. I have some gripes with like having these like sticker labels, although most brands do them. I actually would prefer to just be printed on the bottle, because these can come off, and if you're like storing or moving products and these start to fall off, you may lose like what the color is and not be able to know what it is for like repurchase. Or if you do like swatch sticks for your clients or for yourself, you may not be able to match it to the swatch stick that you have. So that's just one thing that I have a gripe about with really any brand that does the little labels, but it's not the end of the world, so I wouldn't necessarily knock points off for it, since that's a pretty standard way for companies to label their products. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start swatching these out for you guys so you guys can see what the colors look like. I'm going to do them in groups of 5. So I'm going to start off with this one, and it is called Platonic. So as you can see, the polish color inside does match the bottle, which is helpful. And I'll try to hold it where it's not over the other colors so it's not in the way. So I'm going to do one coat on camera, and then I'll go ahead and do a second coat off camera just so that it's not taking too long for this video. But I'll come back and show you guys like a little clip of the color once I do the 2 coats so you guys can see what it builds up to. But this is the Platonic shade. It's a very light, almost kind of sheer, like baby pink. It's almost looks like an off-white that has like a pinky purple tone. So I'm going to just put this here for right now because I'll cure them all at the same time. But that's the first color. Then we have Tongues Out. Oop. And some of these do kind of stick. That's the other thing, is when the polish bottle kind of sticks a little bit and it's like a little tight and you have to try to unscrew it. Because it's such a short handle, I do think it's a little harder to unscrew, but that's just like a random like issue. It's not anything I think is going to be too big of a deal, but it depends. Obviously, if you have like any issues with your wrists or anything like that, it may be more difficult for you. Now this one is a true like baby bubblegum, like Barbie pink, just like a very light, fun color. I love the new formulation. I will say that this new formula is better than their last one. I just felt like their manicure polish line, the ones in the black bottle, were very kind of watery. I just didn't love the way that those went on. You really had to make sure that you mix them up before you went in and started to apply them, because they were just a little on the thinner side. Their Go Time gel polishes, which were in the white bottles, were much easier to use, but I just feel like those also could be a little finicky. These have just like a very nice, like medium to thick consistency. They self-level beautifully, but they don't move. Like for me, I usually can't paint a full hand of my nails without it like running. Like I have to do like 2 at a time, cure it, and then go on and move to the next. But I was able to paint my entire hand of nails, do like 1 full coat on all of my hands, or sorry, all of my fingers, and then cure it, which saved me a lot of time. So I was actually really pleased with how this formula works. I don't think it's so thick that it is like hard to work with, but it's like just thick enough that it just helps prevent it from flooding in areas that you don't want it to be. So that was really something that I enjoyed. Now, this color is called Hold My Baby, and it's just a fun, like muted, rosy, maybe slightly mauve, but more of like a rosy tone. It's very pretty. Ooh, I have a little fuzz, so let me try to get that out, and then I'll move on to the next one. Just to point out the self-leveling aspect of this, I just picked out that fuzz, and I actually kind of wish that I kept it on camera, but when I picked it out, I didn't go back over to smooth out the polish. It just smoothed out on its own, so it almost looks like I didn't even go in and try to get that little fuzz out. It just self-leveled into place beautifully. So that's what I meant by it's thick, but it also just self-levels in a way that I feel like it's just going to be perfect for you guys. I also feel like these might be really good for doing like nail art because they are a little bit thicker, but I haven't tried that yet, so I'll tell you guys that in future videos. So the next color is called Giggle Palace. I don't know where this name comes from. It's a very interesting name. This one is like a true bubblegum pink. It's a very, very bright color. One thing I did also notice with this line is that although they have a couple like metallics and like a couple glitters, they don't have a whole lot of those. Most of them are creams or cremes, however you say it. I do think that a lot of the brands that I've seen come out with this kind of formulation and this bottle style, a lot of their products are also like the cream formula. I don't know if there's a specific reason for that, but maybe it's just because they're like revamping all their lines, so their kind of first drop is going to be all of like your traditional like cream colors, and then they'll come out with like the fun ones. But just so you know, if you're somebody who's like really into like glitters and metallics, they don't have a lot of those yet in this line. And then the last one is Apple Core, which this one I've seen on a couple of their videos recently that they've posted to their YouTube channel. This one is a kind of sheer color. Obviously, like I said, because it's a gel, they can't do the bottle in a sheer, so it's not going to match exactly, but it's going to show you kind of like the tone that the sheer is. Now, this one I believe is their most sheer out of like their sheer line that they have in this range. And it's just kind of like a sheer pink, which kind of mimics that like early 2000 like pink and white acrylic kind of look. So it really doesn't look like a whole lot, but when you have it on the nail, it'll add just like a slight pink tone. So this is what the first 5 look like after a second coat and after they've been fully cured. I would recommend, because this formulation is much more saturated than their previous one, that you cure for a full 60 seconds in between each layer. I know on their YouTube channel, I believe one with Karen recently I've seen, where she says that you can cure each layer for 30 seconds as like a flash cure in between and then do a full cure at the end. I'm just a little iffy about stuff like that because with gels, you have to have the light like penetrate them to cure, and the light goes from the top down. So if you have like a bunch of layers built up, the light has to go through not only your newest layer, but then all the way down to the layer at the bottom to like do that full 60-second cure time. So I feel like the more layers that you add, the more unlikely you are to have that bottom layer really be affected by your lamp when you go in for a cure. So I feel like just to be safe and make sure that each layer is cured like fully and you don't have any issues with peeling, allergies, anything like that, just cure it for a full 60 seconds in between. When you're on a client, especially if you have two lamps, it's easy to kind of switch back and forth. If you're working on yourself, because these are thicker and they don't move as much, it's easy to actually do a full hand and then cure, so you don't have to sit there and like cure each nail individually for 60 seconds, which I think is helpful. But I just feel for these like super highly pigmented gels, doing like a flash cure is just not enough. I just feel like I worry that you're not going to get that full cure if you're flash curing each layer. So just my tip and trick for that. Do what you will, but that's what I would probably recommend for these. So let me move these over and then I'm going to go on to the next 5. Alrighty, so first off on this section is Freelance Snack, which is a very hot neon pink. A very like candy yum yum. I don't remember when it came out, but if you were part of like the YouTube makeup girls back when like MAC was really popular, they had a lipstick called Candy Yum Yum, and it was essentially this color, just a very bright neon pink. But super intense, super fun, very pretty for summer. So that's what that one looks like on a first coat. As you can see, these are almost like one coat polishes. I don't ever really recommend that you do just one coat of a color unless you're doing like a certain design over top that it's not going to matter if there are any like sheer spots or things that you may not be like perfected. But I do think that these are as close as you're going to get to a one coat polish. Now the next color is Big Brain Chaos. And this one is a kind of plummy purple. Very pretty. I love purples like this that are kind of like that muted tone almost. They have kind of like that fall base to it. I love this. This would be pretty for this time of year since we are in fall right now. I almost went with this for my nails, but I wanted to go for something that was a little more kind of like that plum tone, but very pretty. Again, almost like a one coat color. I'm trying not to get the colors all over my desk right now because I want to cure them all together, so I'm not taking up too much time. The next one is Alpha Rose, which this one is a deeper purple. It has some red to it, so it leans kind of more of that like reddy purple. It's not like a straight purple or a red. I wouldn't say it's either. I would say it's kind of like a mix of the two. Again, it's a very fall coated color. I really like it. I feel like if you're scared of like true purples or true like vivid reds, this is a fun kind of mix in the middle. And it's like something that I feel like is muted enough that it doesn't look like it's necessarily a bright color, but it does have that like fun punch to it that the bright colors typically have. So I think if you're somebody who wants to try to get into some funner colors and doesn't want to like always have neutrals on, this is a way to kind of start branching out. Now, the next one is called Bird Rib. Again, not really sure where this name came from. Trying to show you guys off to the side a little bit. This one is like a true like mauve rosy color. Very pretty. More muted and like neutral toned, so this you could get away with if you're somebody who likes to go for more of that like neutral kind of color with just a little bit of like a purple undertone to it. It'd be really pretty, I think, on like a medium skin tone or to a darker skin tone as like a nude. Now this one is the first like metallic shimmery kind of color that we have. This one is called Licked, and it is a metallic finish, so it doesn't have any like chunky glitter or anything in it. But it does have a lot of sparkle. This one is super pretty. And it is kind of like that, almost like a rose kind of metallic. I wouldn't say a rose gold because I don't think it leans kind of like that rose gold tone, and the metallic flecks in it do appear to be like silver in tone, but it's like that true like rose like what do you call those colors, jewel tone color. Very pretty. I really like this formula on the metallic. It's super nice. The metallics are always going to show like more of the brush strokes than your creams, even as they level out. But I do think that it self-levels very beautifully as well as the others. And it just looks very smooth and pretty. So let me go ahead and cure these out, and then I'll add a second layer so that we can see what it looks like with 2 coats. So that is all the rest of the pinks and purples, 2 coats fully cured out. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next 5. I'm going to try to change this up just a little bit because I don't want you guys to not be able to see as I'm swatching them. So I'm going to try not to leave them right here, but I'm going to start off with Subtitles Please. This one is a very light kind of lilac color. Oh, and the bottle is on tight. So I'm going to take this and do the swatch so you can see it's kind of similar to that first color that we swatched, just I say a little bit more purple than pink. It does have that kind of like off-white type of tone to it, so it doesn't necessarily like right off the bat look like it's a bright color. It's more of like that muted, like it's like a neutral with a subtle hue. Very pretty. I'd say that this would be like a nice base for maybe like a French design. Like if you were not doing like a typical white French, you wanted to do like something with color, it might be pretty as like a base because it almost has like a sheerness to it, but very pretty. I really like the way that this one looks. So I'm gonna set this one down up here, kind of out of the way. Then I'm gonna do the next one, which is Lace Choir, which is a very pretty like muted lilac, kind of like a darker lilac color. I feel like lilacs are more like pastel-y almost, but this one has that kind of like muted like grayish tone to it. Very pretty. I love purples that are like this, kind of purpley blues. It has a lot of like a blue undertone, but I'd still say it's in the purplish family. Very, very pretty though. So that's what that one looks like. Really nice. I love how much that purple undertone really pops in the light. So I'm going to put that one to the side. Then we have kind of like a darker, this one I'd say is still kind of like that purpley undertone, but it looks more of like a gray tone. And this one is called Peaceaboo. And it's like a darker gray, but it does have that like purpley undertone. Very pretty. I'd say this would be fun for maybe some Halloween designs, or if you wanted something that's like neutral but still like dark. Very nice. This one I'd say leans more gray than the previous tone, but similar in like the style of color. So it has like a deeper like tone to it and it's more gray, but it's still kind of like that muted type of fall color. Really, really nice. Then we have Me Unicorn, which is a very bright baby blue, like sky blue. Very pretty. I don't necessarily wear these particular colors myself very often, but I feel like this would be like a fun for like a French or an ombre for summer, maybe with some like white like reflective glitter. I feel like that would look really nice. This may also look nice for some winter sets, but I feel like because it has more of that like turquoisey kind of undertone or like that aqua, like that white base, it almost kind of looks like it would be better for summer versus winter, but you could probably get away with some like icy winter sets with that. So that's our first blue, like true blue. Then we have Good Hoodie, which kind of looks like a denim color almost. I'd say it's like a darker kind of denim. I'd say it almost looks like it has some like green undertone. So it's not like a true blue, but it's like that kind of washed denim look. I really like this. I'm like a sucker for any type of like muted fall color. I love like bright and dark colors and I definitely love to wear them, but I feel like fall tones are just so cozy feeling. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Let me know if I'm crazy down below, but this is a very pretty color. I love tones that are like this or like these purples right here that are more like muted. They're so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cure these out fully, add the second coat, and then I'll come back and show you guys what that looks like. And this is what those 5 look like swatched out. So I'm going to move on to the next, which will start getting into the end of the blues and some of the greens. Sorry guys, I forgot to hit record. So I'm going in with the shade Lunch Hero, which is like a stormy blue. It's like a medium tone, so it's not too dark. I feel like, again, this would be fun for fall or winter, and I think that this could work for like a range of looks. It's not so dark that you can't tell it's blue, but it has a lot of that like gray undertone to it, which is fun. So I'm going to put that to the side here. Oop, let me kind of keep it here so you guys can still see it. Now I'm going in with Anchored, which I'd say is probably the darkest of the blues, at least in tone. This one has kind of some purple, like gray undertones to it. It's a darker version, I'd say, of like Lunch Hero with more purple undertones versus the like blue-gray. But it's still very pretty. I'd say it leans more purple, so if you're somebody who wants more of that purpley undertone versus like a true blue, this would be a fun color to do. I think that this would be still very fun for like the cozy winter sets, but maybe not like that icy kind of tone like some of the lighter blues are. So very pretty. I do really like that color as well. Then for a brighter one, this one is called Hope GPS, and it's a brighter blue, but not quite as bright as that light blue that we had swatched earlier, the Me Unicorn color. This one is more of like my tone of sky blue if I'm gonna go for something like this. Very pretty, still obviously very bright. I'd say that this would be very fun for those icy winter sets. Again, I always feel like colors like this just lean more like summery to me in my brain, but you definitely can incorporate it into other times of the year, but very fun. If you want like a sky blue but one that will work for like darker skin tones or medium skin tones, this will probably be one that will fit better versus that like very light white base blue, like the Me Unicorn color. But to each their own. I definitely gravitate more towards this type of blue if I'm going for a lighter color. Now the next one that I'm doing is actually not that swatch stick, it's this one. It's called Cold Plunge Face, definitely a tongue twister. This one is kind of like that deeper royal blue color. Very, very pretty. I love tones that are like this. I would say that like my favorite tone of blue is something that's like this, but maybe slightly brighter. Not as dark as this one is. I love those like cobalt tones, kind of that royal blue. They're very, very pretty and very rich kind of tones. I really like them. But this one is very close. I really, really like the way that this one looks. I will probably get a lot of use out of this myself because I definitely gravitate towards blues that are like this. Very smooth, very silky. Really love how all of these colors are applying. They just apply like a dream. I really, really like the new formula. I definitely think that it's an improvement over their previous ones. Now the last color in this little circle is Sage Circuit. And this is starting in on the greens. They don't have a whole lot of greens in this range. This one is a very unique one. It's kind of a muted green, sage color, like the name implies. Very, very pretty. I love a green that's like this. I would say I don't necessarily gravitate towards like really bright greens. I go for more of like the emerald or muted tones. I feel like green is just not a color that I go for too often, but very pretty. And this is one that I would probably gravitate towards because it doesn't like scream green in your face, but it does have that undertone, so you can get away with it, I think, if you're not somebody who typically gravitates towards a green. So very pretty. Let me go ahead and cure these out. I'll add the second coat and I'll be right back. So confession time, I didn't actually get to finish this video when I originally started filming, so I do apologize for that. You're going to see a couple changes. First thing, I just want to let you know this is 2 coats of all the last colors that I was showing you guys. They may be slightly out of order, so I apologize for that, but this is 2 coats of all of them, and they are obviously labeled, so if you're looking for a specific color, you can see that here. The other thing I wanted to just quickly mention is I did switch out my background. I'm really excited. I finally found the background background that I was looking for. If you watch my videos for a while, you would have seen that like checkered kind of background that I use. I actually use a table placemat for my videos, and I like it because monomer and acetone don't destroy it. So it's really helpful for me. Now, I know a lot of people like to have like a tabletop that is like acetone and monomer resistant. I do have that, but if you look here, my table is actually black. And so I feel like I don't love the way that colors and things look like against the black background. I just feel like they pop better on the white and they're more accurate. And you don't get that weird like reflection where it kind of just shows the light spots on it. So I have been looking for a all white placemat, and I finally found one. So hopefully this helps the quality of my videos look a little bit cleaner, and just a little bit more like in depth, and you can see the details better since you don't have that pattern in the background, and it is like a true white instead of a nude. So let me know what you think down below, but I'm gonna get started on the next set of swatches. So let me swap these out. I'm finishing up the greens and I'm moving on to the reds. So I'm starting off with this lime green. Sorry guys, my camera's doing some weird like autofocusing. I don't know if it's the white background. I'm hoping that it's not because I really like the background and I feel like it's helpful. But let me know if this becomes too bothersome. I'll try to like cut around it and figure out what I gotta do. But the first color is Cactus Pucker and it's a very like lime green shade. Now, I wouldn't say that this is like a neon green. It actually is kind of like a dirty martini or like olive green color. I think it's really pretty. I really like that it's not like that fluorescent neon green. I feel like those can be kind of streaky, and they're a little like played out. I feel like I like the neon greens, but they're something that I feel like is very specific to certain themes or certain seasons. So this I feel like you can get away with over like a variety of like spring, summer, fall. So I actually really like this color. Sorry, I'm just gonna try to get this lint piece out or whatever this is. So just take that out and then I'll just take my brush, although you can see it pretty much just self-levels on its own, which is really, really cool. And I really appreciate that of this formula, because I feel like that's the thing with gel polishes that kind of stinks sometimes, is if it doesn't self-level properly, when you go to apply it, you'll see a lot of that brush stroke lines in it, and that can actually kind of like take away from the overall look of your nail, because you'll see kind of weird like gaps of color. So you'll see like some areas that look very opaque, and then where the brush kind of dragged through, it'll look a little more sparse, and it just doesn't look as clean. So I really like how much this formulation actually self-levels. The next shade is called Battle Ready, and this one is a very deep kind of hunter forest green. I really like this one. I feel like this is like the type of green, if you don't really like the color green, but you want to use it for a specific look, these are the types of greens to go for, because they have that like neutral, like foggy base to it. So it doesn't come across green right away. I feel like it's a little more subtle and it's not as like punchy as a green like the first color we showed. So I actually really think that these work well if you are somebody who wants to play with color but maybe is not like super confident about getting into like the bright colors. I went ahead and played with some of the settings on my camera. I'm hoping that'll stop the autofocusing issue, so let's give it a try. The next color is No Lemon No Melon, and this is just a very pale green. This one is really fun because it's a pastel. I feel like pastels are really easy colors to get into because they're bright, but they're not like super in your face. And if you're somebody who likes to wear bright colors, but maybe you can't get away with them as easily, whether it's like for work, or maybe you just like to change up like your outfits and your tones a lot and you don't want it to clash, pastels I feel like are easier to get away with. So they're really, really fun. And I know we're in the winter season right now, but this will be fun for like spring. And I love the formulation on this pastel. Pastels I feel like can get streaky really easily, so having that self-leveling feature is really nice on these, so I do enjoy that. Now we are done with the greens. There wasn't really a whole lot of those. I'm going to get into the reds. This first one I believe is like a metallic, at least that's what it looks like, and this one is called Love Heap. And it's a very deep red, very pretty, Ooh, it's like a glitter metallic. This one is going to be fun for Christmas. I can already see. I feel like I'm going to see this kind of color a lot in the next couple weeks. We're right around the corner from Thanksgiving, but people are already getting in their Christmas sets and kind of setting up for that season. So I definitely will see a lot of this, and this will be fun to play with. Maybe I'll do a Christmas set with it. Very pretty. Again, I love the metallic shades. Metallic gel polishes are just really easy to work with. I feel like they're very forgiving. If you like glitter, but you don't want that like chunky look, metallics are really fun to play with. I do really love this color as well. It's like a true ruby red. Very, very pretty. It almost comes across a little brighter than the bottle though, I will say. It has like a dark base to it. I hope you can see that, but the reflection, like the glitter reflection on it is a little brighter and it makes the overall look a little brighter. But I will say that it matches this as far as like when you take it out of the light. The depth is the same as this, but it is slightly brighter when you get it in the light. Now I'm going to use Radar Mom, which is a very bright red. And this is probably going to be like your true Christmas red. That's like that cream, kind of like that blue-based red, which I think is like what most people consider a true red. I do really like this kind of color because I feel like when you get into the orangey reds, they can kind of look a little funky if you have like an opposing undertone in your skin. So like if you're a very cool or neutral undertone, sometimes those orange-based reds just pull really, really orange and you don't actually get to see that like red tone as much. But the blue-based reds are really fun, kind of that more neutral, and I feel like they work for any skin tone and undertone. Really, really pretty, just bright enough to be fun and like punchy, but not super bright where it feels like you lose that depth. So really like that color as well. Let me go ahead and cure all of those, and then I'll do a second coat so we can see what that looks like. Although most of these look like they would be one coaters. And this is those 5 with the second coat. Really, really pretty and pigmented. The first of the next 5 is Anticipate Gems. This one is a metallic. This is kind of like a metallic bronzy shade. Very pretty. Just your traditional like bronze color. Also, if you do see that when I start to apply the polish on the swatch stick, if there's any air bubbles, it's usually one of 2 things, because this formula really isn't like bubbly like that, I guess you could say. Usually it's from me like moving the bottles around, turning them upside down and all of that to get like the names and to pull them out of the container. Or it could also be because this is a larger swatch stick, when I go to do my swipe, especially when I first apply it, if I don't have enough product on my brush, that can create the bubbles. So it's not necessarily specific to the formulation. That's just something that kind of happens if you don't have enough product on your brush, because it kind of drags air and like skips over the nail. So that's why that happens. But that's the first color. Then the next shade is more of like a coppery color. This one is called Gothic Smile. And this one has more of that orangey base, so it kind of goes with the rest of the reds. These are those metallic finishes, these last 2. Very, very pretty. Like I said, it has a very fine glitter in it to create that kind of metallic look, which I really love. I feel like the fine glitters just keep that smooth finish. They don't look as like rough and bumpy as some like chunky glitter gels can look, but they do give you that high shine, which I really appreciate. So that's what that one looks like. Now the next one is called Tarot Tea Trick, and this one is kind of like a, I don't know if you would call it like a brick red almost, like a little lighter than a traditional brick red. It almost kind of has like a rosy kind of tone to it, so it leans kind of pink, but it is kind of more of that muted red. It's almost if you took a red and you added like a lot of white to it. I feel like that's what you would get with this. It kind of brings the tone down, but it's still a deep enough color that I think this would work on medium to dark skin tones and be just like a nice like pinky nude shade. Very, very pretty. So that's what that one looks like. Then we're kind of going into that orangey, that bright orange shade. Really love these kind of colors. They're very fun, and I really like a bright orange, a true bright orange. So this one is called Flickety Fric. Not really sure what that name means, but gonna go ahead and swatch this one out for you. This one actually looks a little brighter than I was expecting for some reason. I was expecting this to have a little bit more like depth to it. It's kind of like a true like fire orange, like a pumpkin orange almost. I like oranges to be a little darker than this. That's kind of my go-tos when I use colors like this, but this is really fun for what it is, and it's very creamy. I will say this one in particular is applying a little more sheer than some of the others. Still highly pigmented and covers well, but it almost has a little bit of like a see-through quality that some of the other shades didn't have. Not sure what that is about. I may try to like mix this up and see if that helps, but that's what that one looks like. Now the last one in this set is Combat Anime, and this one is a very bright red. This one seems a bit brighter than the last one that we showed. Still, I think like a blue base. Actually, this one probably leans a little more pink. Very fun, a little more punchy than the last bright red that we showed. This one I'd say is fun for if you want something that's a little more in your face. It doesn't have as much depth as the first bright red we showed, but it still is that fun, just classic red. Really pretty. That one went on very silky. And those last ones with 2 coats applied. The next selection is finishing up some of these glitters and metallics. So the first one is Your Name Here, which is kind of like a brushed bronze color. I'd say it leans kind of gold, but I don't know. In my head, it kind of has like that bronzy undertone, but maybe it's more of like an antiqued gold. Maybe that's a better way to describe it. And all of these metallic finishes are pretty much the same finish overall. There's not really a difference in the color of like the micro glitters or anything, but it does still give you like that different undertone because they'll change up the base color. So that's what that looks like. This next shade is called Cookie Sniper. This is a gunmetal kind of shade. I really like metallics that are like this, that have kind of like a taupe undertone. I feel like they're just a little different than your traditional silver or gold, and they can fit really in with like your neutral looks without making it too metallic looking. Like it adds just that little bit of metallic, but because it has that brownie kind of undertone, it really helps kind of pull looks together. So that was Cookie Sniper. Gonna go ahead and cure that one out. Then we have a random glitter. I guess these kind of can flip because this has a metallic, but this color is called Horn Selection, and this one is a glitter, so it's gonna have some sparkle in it. It's not going to be that like smooth metallic finish. It's gonna have that like chunky glitter in it. Now this one looks like it doesn't have any type of color on the base. If it does, it might just be like a very light tint. You're not going to notice that though on the nail. This looks like this is probably going to be best as like a glitter topper over another color. So you would apply something else first to really give you that base, or if you wanted to do just like a clear or nude nail and then just throw this on top just to add a bit of sparkle. That is probably going to be the best way to use this one, since I feel like if you try to build this up to the point where it's like super opaque, it's actually going to start looking kind of chunky and you'll lose some of this definition from the glitter. So I do like this, but this is going to be better as a topper versus its own color. Now this has some kind of holographic silver glitter, it looks like, in it, and then kind of a bronzy glitter in it, so it's like a mix. And the glitters look like they're slightly different sizes, which gives you that difference in reflect when you go to apply it on the nail. So that one's really pretty. I like that. Ooh. I'm gonna go ahead and close that up. Then we can do this silver shade, which is Happy Helmet. And this is going to be just like your true metallic silver. Gotta have one of these. Silver and like chrome colors are really fun and really on trend right now. So this is going to give you kind of like a chrome look without needing to actually do a chrome design. Now you might be able to get away with this for like some chrome nail art because like I said, the formula is a little on the thicker side. I haven't tried that, so if you do, let me know. But I definitely think that this might be a multi-purpose one, since I feel like this is going to give you like that effect that you want, but maybe with just a gel polish versus having to use like a gel paint, because I feel like the gel paints don't cure very well. At least the super metallic chrome ones don't. I always have issues with those chipping a lot quicker than any other product that I've ever had. I usually don't have a whole lot of issues with chipping, but whenever I use like a super metallic chrome gel paint, whatever brand it's from, it doesn't matter if it's like a specific brand, I feel like there's so much reflect in it that the light of the lamp doesn't cure it very well. It cures just like the top layers, but the underneath is not fully cured, and it just peels off really easily. So this might be able to help fix that. Since the formula is going to be a lot thinner than a gel paint, you won't have to worry as much about having issues with curing, because the thicker the product is, the harder it's going to be for the light to really penetrate. Now this last shade is called Step On No Pets, and this one is getting into the neutrals. So the rest of the colors are pretty much neutral shades and are going to be kind of your core and base color. Now this one is kind of like a taupey brown. This almost kind of reminds me of a slightly darker and maybe more brown versus gray version of their Cover Taupe acrylic. That one kind of has more of a purpley tone, and that one is a little bit lighter, but this is going to give that same kind of look, but going to give you a slightly different like depth. And this is this 5 fully cured out with a second coat. Now you can see that glitter shade, the Horn Selection, really benefited from having a second coat. It added a lot more coverage to the nail. I feel like you can really get away with this by itself. When you add 2, maybe if you went in with 3 coats, it would give you that full coverage and you wouldn't have to worry about having like a base underneath. I would, because like I said, the base doesn't really have any color. It's kind of just a clear. I would still probably put a similar color, whether it's a colored acrylic or some other gel polish underneath. You don't need to do like a whole lot. So if say you had like a clear nail and you wanted to do a nude underneath just as a base, I would do like a color similar to this, like a nude, and I would only do like 1 coat of that, because you wouldn't really need it there for like full coverage. You would just need it to help fill in gaps if there's any areas where the glitter didn't kind of fill in. Now it is a gel polish, so you can kind of sit there and play around and move the particles where you need to and then cure it, so you don't have to worry about it like drying into place and having to do like multiple coats to fix in any areas. But I do think that, like I said, you can benefit from maybe having a base layer just in case there are still some areas after you go in with your second coat. The next couple shades are looking delicious enough to eat. They're like that brown chocolatey type of tone, really fun. So I'm going to start off with the lightest one. This one is Sleeping Giant. And I love like dark, nude, rich browns. They're just really fun. They work for a lot of people. They're kind of punchy, but also not like those bright neons or really super intense colors. I just feel like they give just the right amount of depth to a nail look. And you can add whatever you want over top of them, whether it's foils, stickers, glitters. You want to add like hand drawn designs or hand painted designs. You want to like sugar effect over top. Whatever you want to do, you need a good nude base. I feel like having the variety is really good to have, because not everybody is going to love the same kind of nude or the same kind of brown, and it's not going to look the same on everybody. So I definitely think having a good variety is helpful. But this is the Sleeping Giant color. So kind of like a light, almost like milk chocolate brown, really fun. I'm going to pop that one into the light. The next one is kind of a warmer tone. This one is called Box and Boogie, and this is more of like a caramel brown, I would say. It has a lot more of those like orangey red undertones, but still kind of like on the medium side. So this one isn't really getting into the darker browns yet. but really fun. I do really like this shade. I think if you have a warm skin tone, these really kind of pop on you and they really complement your skin tone really, really well. And this is a fun shade for like this time of year, Thanksgiving, fall time. I feel like those warm browns really get a lot of use around this time and people are really gravitating towards them. So that's what this one looks like. Just kind of, like I said, like a melted caramel chocolate. Then we're getting into some of the deeper browns. So the next one is called Hot Cave Freak. Some of their names, I swear, are just really weird to me. I'm not really quite sure how they get to them, but this one is a deep, rich red brown, like a true dark chocolate color. Really, really fun. It's like a hot fudge almost. I really, really like this. I like these deep, rich browns personally. If I'm going to go for a brown, I tend to like it to have a lot of depth to it. I feel like a lot of the lighter browns just kind of blend in with my skin tone a little too much, and I don't get the contrast that I personally like. Unless I'm going over with another type of like design product, I really prefer to have a darker nude. So I would go for something like this over the lighter shades if I'm going to wear it by itself. So very pretty. This one went on like a dream. I love how smooth that looks. So I'm going to go ahead, pop that one in the light. Then we're going to go in with Ghost Smoke. This one is kind of like more of a neutral. I wouldn't say it leans too cool, but it doesn't have a warm undertone necessarily either. I'd say this one kind of lands right in the middle. And it's kind of like the medium, maybe leaning on a deeper shade, but I feel like it's still a little bright. So I definitely feel like you can get away with this if you want more of like a medium brown, but maybe with a little bit of depth. And this is going to be a good one if you don't like your browns to lean too red or orangey, or you don't want them to look very gray, because it's going to be right in the middle and it's not going to lean too far one way or the other. It's like a true brown. Really like it. I feel like this one's going to be good as just like a nude, just neutral color base. Then the last one in this section is called Fur-o-cious, but they kind of break it down to like 3 words almost. So this one is like a deep, deep chocolate. Like this is going to be your true like dark chocolate color. Very, very pretty. This one I like a lot. I'd say this one and what was this one? Hot Cave Freak are probably my favorites of this section, just because they have the most depth to them. But this one is very, very nice. I'd say I'd probably go for more of the reddy brown over this one just on my skin tone personally, but this one I would say is still really nice. It just leans a little bit cooler. For me, I tend to be able to get away with more of the warmer colors I think are neutral. If I go too far to one side of the spectrum, I feel like things look a little bit off on me, but this one is very pretty and has a lot of depth. So let me go ahead, cure this out, and I can add the second coats. And this is those 5 cured out with a second layer. Really super rich. Love these colors. Very nice neutrals. So I'm going to go ahead and move these over so we can get into the next set of 5. So the first shade that I'm swatching out of this, I apologize, I forgot to hit record when I started it. This one is Camp Purrr. This one is a tan, like a light tan shade, kind of has like a peachy yellow undertone to it. These type of browns I feel like on myself kind of wash me out almost, so I only use them as base colors typically. I feel like if you have a darker skin tone than me, this is gonna look like a true nude and it's gonna pop a lot better. On me it can kind of look a little muddy for some reason. I think it's just because it blends too closely to my skin tone, but this one is super, super pretty. I actually feel like this range of shades, along with the last ones that I showed you, are really similar to that Not Polish Acrylic collection that I did a video on a while back. I will add it in the cards above for you guys. It's a chocolate collection. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was acrylics and it had a lot of these like salted caramel, chocolatey tones. And I feel like these just look very similar, but in a gel polish form. So if you didn't love that because maybe you're not somebody who uses acrylics a lot, maybe this range of colors from the Young Nails line will actually give you that same look without having to deal with acrylic. So the next one is called Salty Laugh, which this one I feel like is just like a true salted caramel color. This is also a lighter tone. This one, oh, this one actually looks like it's a sheer. So they have a couple sheers. You're not going to notice the difference on the bottle because, like I said before, it needs to be opaque since it's a gel polish. So it's hard to tell unless you swatch them out for the sheers. So for these packaging, or this kind of packaging rather, it is a little hard if you're going to go for like sheer tones to show that it's a sheer. There may be ways that brands could like mark them in addition to having the color to just let people know. Otherwise you'll just have to either have like a swatch stick of it or be able to just open it up and test it out. Otherwise you won't be able to tell just looking at the bottle. But this is what Salty Laugh looks like. I'm not sure. I feel like I actually would have loved this tone in an opaque color. I feel like this, I don't know, it probably would be pretty for like a French color, like as your base nude, and then just do like the white over top. I don't tend to do like a traditional French a lot, so I don't feel like I'm gonna get a whole lot of use out of this particular shade. I think if it was a little more opaque, I would actually enjoy it better, but some people really gravitate to sheer, so I do think that it's good for a brand to have sheer tones in their line no matter what. I just find for myself, just in the type of designs that I gravitate towards, sheers are harder for me to use and find uses for, but that's just a personal preference really. So the next one is called Wings and Bones, and this one actually looks like it's kind of a metallic, which I didn't notice that ahead because it's such a light color. It's kind of like a champagne, which is really fun. I do like that they added this shade into the metallics. I feel like this kind of rounds it out. If you like that effect, like that metallic effect, but you don't necessarily want to go as dark as the traditional metallics, or you don't want it to lean too warm or too cool, because this is going to give kind of that light white champagne base, and if it will allow you to add like a lot of other colors and designs on top without it clashing. So I feel like this one is really fun, and like I said, it rounds out that metallic range. I'm just going to pick off this little fuzzy that I have here. I'm not going to worry too much about this because I'm going to do a second layer, but that's what this one looks like. Then let me close this one up. We have Bits and Pieces, which is a nice medium to light brown. This has a chocolate base to it. Again, kind of like a milk chocolate color, very pretty. This is going to be lighter though than the last one that I showed you guys. This one's going to be nice, I think, for like light to medium skin tones. I know I keep saying that any skin tone can really use any shade that they want. You just have to find ways to use it that will work for you. So like even the shade that I said would clash with my skin tone because it's too light of like a nude for me, but it's not like so light that it's like a white or a beigey tone. It kind of is very similar in depth to my skin. I wouldn't use that on its own, but I would use that as a base when I'm doing other design work. So maybe as like a background for some hand painting, or background for like a sugared design, something where the focus is not going to be that color. So if you are somebody who has colors that maybe you don't gravitate towards, you can find ways to use them just by switching up the design. So maybe you don't like it as an all over color, but you like it for a French, or you like it as a base for other types of designs. Really play up with the products that you have, because you can pretty much use any product. You just have to figure out like the way that you're going to like it for you, for your skin tone, for your style. You just gotta kind of change things up here and there if it's not necessarily something you like just by itself. So this is Bits and Pieces, and the last one of these 5 is Therapy Raccoon. I would like to talk to who names these products because I'm just curious how do you get these names? Like, these are just so intriguing to me. They're just very different, and I'm not quite sure how you get that. Like, I'm not really sure what a therapy raccoon is. But this one is a very nice chocolate, like rosy color. I like colors that are like this, that have a little bit of the rosiness to it, because it's not like a true brown. It has a little bit of like pink in it, and I feel like that makes it a little bit more wearable. I like browns that lean a little rosier or have like that reddish undertone or like a super dark chocolate. I don't necessarily like ones that lean to like tan almost. I just feel like these complement me better, and I feel like I can wear these on their own even though they're not like super far off from my skin tone, because the undertone is a lot different. So I like this one quite a lot. I'm probably going to get a lot of use out of this one. So let me pop that one in the light, and I'll do a second coat and show you what that looks like. So this is 2 coats of those last ones, just so you guys know, because I don't know if I just picked up the wrong swatch stick but read off the correct color. I did mix up Therapy Raccoon in bits and pieces. So Therapy Raccoon was the one that is more of like a lighter chocolatey brown, and then the bits and pieces was the one that had the rosy undertone. So I do apologize. I noticed that when I went to do the second coat and the colors didn't match, so I did fix it. So now these labels are correct, but I just wanted you guys to be aware in case you are using this to decide what you want to purchase. Then the next one is Salty Laugh. This one is that like sheer color. This with the second coat, like usual, will add more coverage. Again, it's still not my cup of tea because I tend to like more opaque colors, but I do think that it's a pretty shade, and will be like a nice sheer nude for some people. It leans a little orangey for myself, for what I would use if I was going to go for a sheer. I tend to go for something that's a little more pink, but I do think it will work for some people who want more of a true nude as like a sheer base. So that's those swatched out with a second coat. Now I'm going to go into our last like 9 or 10 shades. So give me a second to move this over. So this is going to round out the nude shades. So these are the very, very light ones. The first one is Saint Sugar, which, oop, that one's a little tight. I'm going to go ahead and start the first coat. I believe this one's a sheer as well. Yep, I am correct. They have, I want to say maybe 5 sheers, 4 or 5 total in the collection. So this one is the probably lightest one that they have. This is that Saint Sugar shade. And this I probably would use over that last sheer, just because this one I think is going to give me the brightness that I would probably want from it. And we'll see what it looks like with 2 coats. But this one has that same nude tone to it, but just a slightly brighter shade than the last one. So I'm going to pop that one in the light. The next one looks like it might be a metallic. Let me double check. This one is UFO Tofu. And this one is maybe a glitter metallic. It's not quite as like metal looking as the previous ones, but it has a little more nude than that champagne shade that we did in the last grouping. So this one I feel like is a very nice, if you want like a light nude, but you want there to be a little like fun pizzazz to it, this is going to be a fun color to pick up because it'll give you that glitter effect without being too like chunky. I do notice in a lot of the lines that have this like new packaging and new formulation, not just Young Nails, but just overall, like a lot of the other lines that I've seen where they've reformulated and gone with this kind of style, I do notice that most of the colors end up being that cream formula. I might have mentioned that earlier. I apologize if I did, but I do think that they work really well in their glitter and metallic formulas as well. So I would love to see these companies come out with more like glittery shades, fun shades in their line, because I do feel like although the creams are very universal and you can use them with a lot of different other products and add glitter over top if needed, I do feel like some people like to just have like a one and done color. So adding some more like glitters and different textures I think will really round out these lines. But I get it, they are a lot of the times when I see these particular styles, they are reformulating like pre-existing existing lines are adding on. So I can understand maybe not starting off with having like a full range. I do think Young Nails did do well in having a variety of different tones and colors. I would say that they predominantly have a lot of nudes in this range, but I do think that they rounded it out enough with other colors. So you have like your greens, your blues, your purples, and you have like a range in those like subcategories. So for example, in the greens, like they had lights to darks, some neutrally greens, some really bright vivid greens. So I do think that they did well at having like a fully well-rounded range. I do think that they have a good variety of textures to start off with as well. I do think for some ranges, like I believe it's like the not polished solo gels, I think all of those were creams, or at least the majority of them were. So I do think Young Nails did their best to add a variety of textures, but I would like to see a little bit more. If they do add to the range, I'd like to see maybe some more of these like glitters and metallics added in. But this next one is called Soft Landing, and this one is what would you describe this as? It's a very light, like beigey color, not necessarily one that I gravitate towards, but definitely a nice nude. It's more of that yellow based nude, like I've said before. Still pretty, just something I would probably use as more of a base. If you're somebody who likes a lighter, like tan or a lighter nude color, but you don't want it to lean super pink, this is probably going to be the color for you. So very pretty. Again, just not maybe my cup of tea as far as the tone, but that is that one, which is Soft Landing. Then the next one is called Natural Courage, which this one looks like it's going to be a peachy nude, which it is, kind of like a pinky peach. Definitely has the warm undertone to it. Very nice. All of these like lighter colors, I feel like I really prefer them as like bases for other designs when I'm doing maybe like some bright neon colors or really, really rich, dark, like glittery colors. I like to add them over top of colors that are like this because it helps me kind of tone those down so that they're not like overwhelming. But it allows them to just kind of pop, because like the white background I was talking about earlier, it just kind of pops over top. So these are going to be good for a lot of like base colors. So really like that one. Definitely like that one, I think, more than the previous one, just because it has a little more peachy, like pink to it. Then the last one in this section is Soul Frequency, which this one looks like a pinky nude, kind of like a rosy pink, but definitely lighter in tone, so it's not going to be like that medium rosy tone that you're used to. But I really like this color. I feel like this, for me, if I'm going to go as light as this and it's going to be more of like a nude color, I do like colors that are like this that have more pink to them. I feel like they just wear nicer on myself, and as you like combine them with other colors, I feel like they don't get like as muddy as maybe some of the others. But that's, again, just a personal preference. I really like this one, and I feel like this is a fun, just light pink nude. We are in the home stretch, guys, so this is the last 5 that we did with the second coat fully cured out. So as you can see, a nice range of very light neutrals. So I'm going to go ahead and move these out the way, and we are going in with our last 4 colors. So very excited to finally get here. So this one's, obviously, we have some 2 glitters, the final remaining 2 glitters. They only actually had, I want to say, 3 total that are actually true glitter shades in this line. And then you have your white and your black, which obviously every line needs. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. I actually think this is probably the first one that I picked up. So this one is called Pink Noise, and these, I believe, are clear bases with some glitter. So it's not going to have any color, similar to the last glitter that we showed. The other thing that you'll notice, and a lot of glitter polishes are like this, so please, if you are using polishes like this, don't think that they're like dried out, but the more glitter or like embellishments you add into a gel polish, the thicker it's going to get. So it's not going to apply as smoothly as if it had no glitter in it. So just forewarning, in case case you are trying this out and you're like, why does this feel like it's applying a little like grainy? That is why, is it doesn't necessarily apply as smoothly because you have those glitter particles in it, and it does impact the like thickness of the product. Now you can see towards the cuticle, it's hard for me to really get the glitter to stay on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up some product, kind of pull the glitter towards the edge and see if I can just lightly float that over to just add some of that glitter. That's another thing with these chunky glitter gels that's a little harder, is that you will end up with some gaps. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to really fill that back space in. I'll try to kind of brush back a little bit here and see if that'll help, which I think it did a tiny bit. But I'm going to go ahead and cure this out. As you can see, it gives a decent coverage on the first coat, but I think it's going to look better when we add a second layer. So I'm going to throw that one into the lamp. And then I'm going to go in with the next one, which is Spirit Hole, which I think that this one is just a holographic silver glitter. This actually does have some chunkier pieces in it. I don't know if that's going to be easy for you guys to see. I feel like it doesn't really focus well on my camera, so I do apologize for that. But this one is different than the last because it has like slightly larger chunky pieces. This one I do think also maybe doesn't have as much glitter in it as the last one did. So this really is going to be like a true topper. Like I don't think you can build this particular color up enough to get like a full coverage. But I do think that when you have pieces that are as chunky as some of these are, you don't necessarily want that as a full like coverage because you're gonna lose that dimension from the different size glitters. So this one will actually be really pretty just over top of other colors to add that glitter and sparkle, but not actually like be on its own. So let me pop that one in the light, and then we'll swatch out the white and the black, because obviously you want to have a good white and black in your collection. So these ones I have very high hopes for because the formula of this is very thick and creamy, and I feel like that is just something that you look for in these particular shades, which, oh, I do think that they are, and I'm really excited about that. So I feel like whites especially and blacks are really hard to find like the right consistency that you prefer. I feel like it's very individual on like what you like. I like a creamy self-leveling white and black because I feel like especially with the white, because it's such a light color, you can see any streaks and any like divots in the color. So if there's any gaps where maybe there's not as much pigment or the brush kind of pulls too much off, you want to have it self-level kind of to fill that in so that you don't see those like areas as much when the nail is actually finished and done. So this is a really good start. I would add a second coat just to fill in any little areas, but I think for the most part it's self-leveled enough that it filled in the majority of those like low spots. So I'm going to go ahead and do my first coat of my black. So again, same concept, although I think that this one hides some of that a little bit easier because it is such a dark color. But I do think same thing is that if it's not opaque enough, it's very noticeable on black shades because they are just so flat and so dark that it's just hard to hide any areas where maybe there's not as much pigment. So really like that. I will say this one, maybe I don't enjoy as much as the white. On camera, it's looking pretty good. The first coat on the swatch stick does have some sheer spots. That's not like unheard of or weird to have, but I do think it's slightly thinner than I was expecting it to be. So we will see what it looks like when I do the second coat. I'm just going to try to kind of finish it as well as I can, just kind of fix the spots up here. When you go over areas that are like bumpy or like round, I do feel like the way that the brush kind of pulls the product also impacts it. So you want to use a lighter hand if you're going over kind of a raised area because it'll help prevent from pulling off the product at the highest point and then leaving all the product at the lowest point, and that's how you'll get kind of that like divot where it looks sheer in some areas but not others. So just to start off, I think that this looks pretty good, but I would add a second coat for sure. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I will show you what the last four colors looked like with two coats. If you've made it this far in the video, definitely thumbs it up and let me know. I know this was a long one. I do appreciate you guys bearing with me, but this is the last 4 shades. I will say I do think that they benefited from the second coat. The glitters always really benefit from it because you get much more like opaque coverage from them. They are, like I said, still like a clear base though, so you will still see your nail through it. So I would probably recommend doing a base color underneath if you are somebody who doesn't want to risk that. If you don't care if your nail shows or if there's any areas with some gaps, then you don't have to do that. I will say I did a very thick coat for my second coat of this, so that does play a part into how opaque the glitter actually came out in the end. This one, of course, it's just going to be a topper. It's not going to give you full coverage, but I do think it's really pretty because it has a bunch of different size glitters, which gives you some dimension. So still really like this one. I actually think I prefer this one over the pink noise. And then the white and the black really benefited from the second coats, but I again think that they were really good on the first coat. I think the white is much more opaque on the first coat alone, but the black really built up well, and on the second coat really gave you that full coverage. So this is those last 4 shades. Let me go ahead and put them all together so we can see what the entire range looks like. If you made it to the end of this video, you are a trooper. This was a very long one and a bit chaotic since I filmed it over 2 separate days, and we had some background changes as well as I did it over 2 different times of the day, so I might have talked a little bit louder at the second half of the video, so I apologize. But I do appreciate you guys bearing with me and kind of watching the video. It does mean a lot. I appreciate all of like my new subscribers. I hope that this is something different but still enjoyable for you guys. I do tend to gravitate towards the like tutorial design videos over things like this for the most part, but I do want to kind of incorporate different styles of videos into my channel because I don't want it to get too stagnant. And I did want to create swatches for this line that I picked up because this one doesn't come with a pre-made like swatch book or swatch set like a lot of other brands do. I don't know if they'll ever do them in the future, but right now they don't have one. So I wanted to be able to have like actually fold out swatches of this line because I do feel like it's easier to decide what color you want to use. Even with the color coded bottles, I do think that the way that the product looks on the nail and the texture and just how like pigmented it looks does impact whether or not you want to use certain colors for certain things. So I do like having a swatch book even though the colors now match the bottles. I did kind of rearrange things. I don't know if I said that already, just so that they match kind of similar colors and tones and textures. So if you're looking for something specific, you can kind of see what colors look like next to each other. So for example, like these colors are very similar in tone and depth, but they're different in undertone. So that way, if you're kind of on the fence between the two, you can see what they look like when they're next to each other and which one you would prefer. I'm assuming that most people probably aren't as crazy and in the mix of the over consuming as I am, where they would be getting the full line. A lot of you probably are just picking out specific colors that you really enjoy. So this hopefully is helpful to you guys to see which ones that you would like to add to your collection. I do think that this reformulation and just kind of upgrade to their gel polished line I really enjoy. I do think it is an upgrade. I do think that the formula is much better than their previous one. I did like their previous gel polish formula, but it wasn't my favorite. I do prefer a thicker, more opaque and very creamy formulation when I have a gel polish. I just feel like they go on better, they apply better. I can apply thinner coats without having to worry about like it affecting the actual color opaqueness, whereas like their previous line, if I went thinner on the coats, I felt like sometimes they would end up a bit sheer and I would have to build it up a lot more. The more opaque formulation and having it a little thicker, I think helps prevent you from needing to apply more than 2 coats. I do think that with gel polish, when you apply it, it does add thickness to the nail and it can alter your overall shaping. So being able to apply less is actually really, really helpful when you're doing your design. So I do really like the new formula. Their price points are always pretty good. They do run sales throughout the year quite a lot. So definitely check out during their sale times. I believe I'm not sure if when this video goes up, if their Black Friday sale will still be running, but they usually do one around Christmas. So maybe check back in around that time if you are interested in any of the colors. If you are interested in seeing other videos that are like this, that are swatch videos, let me know down below what type of products you would like to see, or what brands or lines. If it's something that I have or that I'm looking to purchase, I will definitely add that in. Just so you guys know, if you are not aware, I'm not affiliated with Young Nails at all. So I don't earn any commission or money from this. So there is a completely unbiased review. Young Nails was the first brand that I ever really got into when I started doing nails. They really helped me with a lot of their educational videos here on YouTube in learning how to do my application. So they were really the brand that I feel like I fell in love with first. Over time, I feel like other brands have kind of taken over with just their product innovation and releases. I do think Young Nails maybe had kind of fallen back a bit, but I do think that this is a step up for them in their gel polish formulation. So I'm excited to kind of get back into it. Definitely check out their products if you haven't. I do think that their acrylic line is a very good beginner friendly basics. So if you're somebody who's looking for your core products, they are really good about that. They also have really good hard gels. So if you're interested in that over acrylic, I do recommend theirs. But yeah, I'll definitely go more in depth on their like overall brand in the future. But just to give you guys an idea, you do see a lot of their products in my videos, and it's because I do think that they have good quality products. I just think that maybe their color ranges and their design like products just maybe have fallen short a little bit over the past couple years, but I do think that they're trying to make a comeback, and I do think that this is a good start. I'm really happy with the formulation of these gels. I think they gave you a good, well-rounded range to start with. I'm excited to see what they add on as they add to the line, but I do think that you have a good mix of like glitters, metallics, creams, sheers, just a good range to start off with for the size of the line that they started with. So definitely check these out. Let me know what colors were your favorite and what you would like to see from me in the future. Subscribe to my channel if you liked it and would like to see more from me. You can check out some of my other videos. Just click on my channel icon for that. Thumbs this video up if you did, so that I know to do more videos like this in the future. But yeah, other than that, I hope you guys had a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye, everybody.